Yo, what's up, everybody? Today is Thursday, October 9th, 2025. Bitcoin block height 918336 with one transaction in the block. Okay, let's take a look at this block here. One measly transaction in this block 17 minutes ago. Mined by 234 Alberta. Was this a personal block? Subsidies and fees. So you get the 3.125 Bitcoin. That's the subsidy. No fees. What was the transaction? So is this what? This is crazy. So expected block was all these, but really the actual block was just this single measly transaction. Coinbase. Okay, I wonder if that's actually a known Coinbase. No, Coinbase newly generated coins. Ocean.xyz. What in the world? It has op return. All right, so it's got something with op return. All right, so I don't really know what this is, though. Is this just... So this is the Coinbase. So this is the payout. This is the subsidy. And it just sends the 3.125 Bitcoin across multiple wallets. Is that a thing? I wonder what in the hell is up with this. I've never seen anything like this. I think I've seen empty blocks before where there's no transactions, but I don't know if I've seen one personal chauffeured valet Bitcoin block. Yes, sir. I will confirm your transaction and only your transaction in this one exclusive block, 918336. That's pretty interesting. Wonder if people will be talking about this. And if it even is, it's a batch payment. Audit Coinbase. So the Coinbase, we use words. We take words from Bitcoin. I think Coinbase, though, means the initial Bitcoin that came out. It's not the subsidy, like the first 50 Bitcoin that came out in the Genesis block. Or it could be every block is called the Coinbase. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a Bitcoin term that we all use it. Like, the company Coinbase, and we think about it as, oh, is that Coinbase the company or is that Coinbase the technical definition? And in this situation, I don't know. But definitely interesting here to see one transaction in the whole block. But I think I've never successfully mined a Bitcoin block. But I would imagine you just put in your Bitcoin address, and if you win, you get the subsidy just to one address. But I guess it's possible that you can just put a boatload of addresses too. So not sure. But why would it have op return? Are the Knots people going crazy? Or is it acceptable to have a little bit of data in op return? Where do we stand on this? I'm of the opinion, I'm in the middle. I don't like core version 30s unleashing op return where it could just be a zillion bytes of data and op return. I don't think that's necessary. Why are they even doing that, right? Obviously, they're corrupted. They're being paid to do it, and they're just using some sort of block centralization, minor centralization. In my opinion, that's what I would just guess, because it was pushed in so fast. It's just not, just doesn't seem right. And there's a lot that goes. You can say, oh, you don't feel it. You don't feel it. Doesn't seem right. Yeah, there's a lot that goes with that instincts. We have instincts as humans. Our gut tells us a lot. Trust your gut. Trust your instinct. You might be wrong, but when things don't seem right, then most of the time they're not right. You could be wrong, but come on, trust your instinct. Don't let people tell you that you shouldn't trust your instinct. You see a shady character, like, whoa, bro, chill, stay back. Trust your instinct, man. That's what got us here this far. as humans. Survival. So it doesn't seem right. Core version 30, they're pushing version 30 through, and they're limiting the cap, or they're increasing it by such a massive amount. But then Knots on the other side, where they're like, oh no, set it to 0, and they're all crazy over 0. I don't agree with that either. I do think there's important things like naming that you could put on Bitcoin in a respectful way, in op return. 100 bytes, 80 bytes, 60 bytes, 40 bytes, a timestamp, something like that. You put it in there, you embed a timestamp that equates to something else. It links, it attaches to a different protocol or something. There's a lot that could be done here. Bitcoin is extremely valuable. And I don't want to muck it up with a bunch of stuff, but come on, we should have the ability to put some things in there. It's very useful. So maybe 100 bytes, maybe 80 bytes, something like that, I think is very reasonable. So, we got the whole core versus Knots thing, and it did show that core is corrupted. Obviously, they're humans, everyone's corrupted. You get paid money, you're going to do shit. Not everybody, but most people. You go to a job, you work, you get paid to do shit. You don't want to be there. You ain't trying to work. Most people, right? Again, not everybody, but most people. So yeah, those dudes are corrupted, but then the Knots guys, they're just off the rails. These guys are just out of control. They hate JPEG so much that they're pushing it to 0, and they're saying, oh, only monetary transactions. But first of all, what even is a monetary transaction? And second of all, I've seen hypocrites, dude. I've seen people have put things in op return. They've used op return for their own personal things or their own business things. And then they want to turn around and say, oh no, people shouldn't use op return. It's only cool when I do it, but not others. That's another thing humans are. We're freaking hypocrites like crazy. You just can't help ourselves. That's just what we do. And the reason probably is because we just have different perspectives, It's like when you touch something that you're going to eat, like, you're okay with it. You touch a chip or something, you double dip, you're okay with it. Not that you should double dip anyway, a chip in like a public dip thing, but let's say you just touched a chip in a bag. You're putting your hands in the bag, touching a chip, and you're eating it. You're cool with a chip that you already touched that you're going to eat again. But if somebody else puts their hands in that bag and they're all touching on the chips, well, you're going to be like, whoa, get your hands out of the damn bag. I'll pour you some chips out on a plate or something. I'll be touching all the chips. You touch it, you eat it. It's like an episode of Seinfeld or something. And that's perspective. We think it's cool and great when we do it, but when other people do it, we got a different opinion. So a lot of that plays into a human psychology, but I think we can meet in the middle, 100 bytes maybe, that sounds good. Or go back to what it was, 80 bytes. Personally, I'm just going to stay on version 29. I'm not going to upgrade to 30, and I'm not going to move the Knots, and I could move the Knots, right? Move the Knots and set your op return to whatever you want. I like it. Hey, I like the choice. I like the option. I think every node should have the option. And there's argument against that too. Like, hey, when everyone has a different settings, collisions, or this happens or that happens, or you're at a disadvantage when you're mining and your node is configured with a different setting that's not the common setting or something. I don't know. You're like 5 seconds behind or something. I don't know. I did some reading on it. And that matters, though. That matters when you're trying to find blocks and you're trying to get 3.125 Bitcoin. It does matter. But I still think, the nodes should have the option. And one of the good things that happened out of this is, look, you got Core. You got Knots now, which is popular, gaining popularity. And then let's get a third one. Let's get a fourth one. Let's get a fifth one, right? I'll make my own software. I can, right? I'm pretty sure I can. I don't know how, but we should make it easier for people to do that. The more options, the better. Just like with hardware wallets, software wallets, mining block templates. That's a big thing going on. All that, options, spread it out. And but we got all this stuff going on, this centralization though. Everybody's complaining about it. And you got the one dude, Bob Burnett, on Twitter talking about, I'll never mind those transactions. You know, that's censorship. Fine. I guess you have the right. You should have the right to censor, right? But we're cheering for it and saying, yeah, I'm on team no JPEGs. And that just creeps into, you could just see it so easy. Team JPEG versus team not JPEG. Shirts versus not shirts. USA versus China. USA's not gonna want to mine China's blocks, and China's not gonna want to mine USA blocks. And IP address. Oh, it goes by an IP address. We're not mining based on these countries, this location. Then it goes to political affiliation. Democrats, Republicans, we're not mining your blocks. Well, we're not mining your blocks. You know, so we got to spread this shit out as far as we can, dude, because humans are tribal as hell. And we're going to be all types of tribal. We're going to be drawing all types of lines and segments and putting people in boxes and saying, you're this and you're the team blue hair and you're team purple hair and we don't like you. And, you know, like sports teams, rivals, and all this craziness that we do. We just do it, man. We just do it. We're humans and we love that shit. We're crazy like that. And that's why the more options, the merrier, you know. Let's just make it happen so you can't get cut off. You know, if the blue hair people are trying to cut you off, you can go to the red hair people. If they're not vibing with you, you go to the purple hair people. If they won't mind your block, you go to the brown hair people. You know, you just mix it all up. You got different options to turn to, not just these huge factions. And I think that is one of the worries with the mining. If you look through here, we got Antpool, you know, Foundry, Mara, F2 Pool, you know, Spider Pool. You know, there's some big players, and it's possible that they're the same players. You know, I don't even know, but right, if the same companies, you know, let's say we have 2 or 3 big companies, 4 or 5 big companies, whatever it is, mining Bitcoin. Well, then Bitcoin goes through them. Then they could be corrupted. Then the governments or whoever's in power can come down on them and say, yo, you guys got to put these templates in place. No JPEGs, no IP addresses, no this, no that. You know, it came down these compliant, forget what it was. Ethereum had to be some sort of OSHA compliant. It wasn't OSHA, but it was something like that, where they had to be compliant with something, you know, net neutral, carbon, this, that. Right? It's just all control mechanisms, man. It's how people control you. So we got to have the least amount of that shit as we can, man. So keep it good. And look, censorship, fine. Censor if you want, but don't, you know, I don't know. Should you be proud of it? I would say no. But then again, it's like, well, I don't like that shit, so I shouldn't be forced to do what I don't like. And I could agree with that too. You don't like JPEGs. You shouldn't be forced to fucking relay them, you know? I mean, I'm fine with that, but I'm just saying, could we come to some sort of agreement like, yo, just make it 100 bytes, 80 bytes? Can we just be reasonable here? That's all I'm saying. People, it's so hard for people to see the nuance. It's so easy for people to just jump off the deep end and just go from one extreme to the other. And there is that bell curve meme where it's actually good to be on the extremes. According to that meme, and when you're in the middle, you're an idiot. So I don't know. Am I retarded? Yes, I probably am, but it makes sense to me to be reasonable because the decentralized permissionless blockchain that is Bitcoin is valuable as shit. So on the one hand, of course, you want to protect it. You don't want to ruin it. You don't want to muck it up with a bunch of shit. But on the other hand, it could be used for a lot more than just money. It could be used for timestamping things. It could be used for perhaps voting. It could be used for naming. It could be used for identities. It could be used for proving things. It already is used for proving things. Hashes and things like that. Transaction IDs. Bitcoin wallet addresses, you know? But we got things like Spaces Protocol, which just make all these addresses human readable. And that's valuable as shit. You know, right now, all we have is DNS to do that. With Spaces Protocol, we don't need DNS, but Spaces Protocol needs Bitcoin. You see? So there's a lot of things that can be built off of Bitcoin. And, we have stuff like Lightning Network, and there's other things, but I think Lightning Network is like the only decent thing. It's popular and it seems pretty good. And the one thing about the Lightning Network that's good. Ah, shit. I gotta take this. I'm gonna snooze this bitch real quick. One thing about the Lightning Network that's cool is it's a database that doesn't rely on your copy of the database, from what I understand. So I don't need to like check with your status before I can use Lightning. I could just use Lightning on my own, and I could do one thing on my own over here on this corner, and you could do your own thing over there on that corner, and we don't need to talk to each other. From what I understand, that's cool. But with naming protocols like Spaces Protocol, you do have to talk to each other, right? You have to know that I own the name input, so you can't use it, right? It's my name, and you own the name output, things like that. So we do have to have a copy of the database. So I'm not sure how people think about that, or if I'm even right about that, but that's how I understand it. But either way, I mean, naming is huge. DNS, domain names, all that stuff, man. We make hard to read data like this transaction ID 720CF3D. We make it into human readable for easy, for memory, to read, to write. That's what we do. We have an English language to talk and express ourselves. We have first and last names, middle names, and all types of stuff. We have words for a drink, a microphone, right? English, we put words to things. That's what we do. So we're going to do it with Bitcoin too. If Bitcoin's going to stick around, we're going to have naming on Bitcoin. All right, let's take a look at the price here. USD price of Bitcoin is sitting around 120,896 US pieces of paper. 24-hour high was 123,822. 24-hour low dipped all the way down to 119,713. Right now, $1 gets you 827 Satoshis. Speaking of Bitcoin Spaces, let's take a look here. Bitcoin Spaces Protocol, 1.5326 total. Bitcoin burned, 9,531 bids, 3,545 transfers and registers, and 3,224 rollouts. Spaces in auction, C3. Language, both can be claimed, but still open for bidding. 2x, Amaya, ACP, 808, D3, D4, F2, claimable in about 16 hours and 10 minutes. Recent Spaces actions, some transfers on Sphinx, 495, full, LTD, 120, Ankh, Cross, ICU, and a bid on Colony. Upcoming rollouts, Made and 115. Expected block 918433. Spaces.market. Latest listings, DV, AM, Eclipse, EJ, Give, Health, Toys, Super, 2. All right, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you all for watching.